Hi. Today the main topic is actually B3, but like 2 months ago, I kept on taking a video about B3. But right now, rather than like explain the B3 algorithm, um, I think I have to just show it to you like practical way how I make some kind of thing software using B3. But actually, I was not able to build some kind of big software because this is my side project. I have my own service, but before but I think it's really kind of nice to talk about this. But let's recap what is B3. The B3 is actually extend version of binary tree. So what is binary tree? Binary tree is it's tree data structure. But in the left part, it goes to this. If there's like target node here and your target value, the target value it goes to left if it is smaller than this target node. But if it's like bigger, it goes right. So there's kind of like common easily it's kind of like characters of the binary tree. But the problem is that when the there's no like consistent the number of the childrens. If it's like a lot of childrens in the one node, or because the maximum children is gonna be 2 in the one node. But the problem is that it could have only one node, and if that really if there's a lot of like nodes that have only one node, and that's gonna repeat it, that the time complexity of those kind of binary tree is O(n). But the important thing of like DB indexing is index algorithm is really it has to be really fast, because the fetching data from this is really slower than the fetching it from the memory. So a lot of like professor and a lot of software software engineer, they try to find something, and that is kind of the B3 is kind of made of due to this kind of limitation of it. So B3 is it's just making the binary tree. It's just the more enhanced version, but it's making binary tree. It's making a tree have a consistent children and a consistent height of it. So there's a worst case is O log n, but the problem is that if it's like range search, like if you look at the DBD, if there's like range search, I wanna search like index 1 to index 20, but if you look at the B3, it's kind of really bad for the range and search. So the time complexity is gonna be O log n plus the n, which is the range. But whatever stuff. So that's kind of a theory thing. I put all of the code in my here, like there's this is kind of representative of my side project, like the B3 thing. I put all of the description of thing, even my code, but my code isn't that clean, so I already put the explanation of it, and there's so much mistake. I know that, but I made some kind of really kind of nice consistent rather than weird code, but still it's kind of bad. So that's kind of really core logic of the B3, but the B3 deletion isn't fully working yet. But whatever stuff. But the more important thing is that how do I use this kind of data structure or algorithm? So this is really how I made. This is my own side project. This is Electrum desktop app. My goal is rather than why don't we have our own personal database? Because I have an experience that searching for documents in one big folder requires some kind of latency, even in my window, in Ubuntu. So I was like, why don't we some kind of database like to solve this issue? So I just made it, but I think there's this kind of like SQL editor. I'm trying to put SQL editor, and so if I click run it, so there's gonna be a query result of it. So that's kind of really kind of thing, and there's of course there's clear issue of it, but So that's kind of really how my my plans to build this side project. Already implemented B3 deletion part, and I almost implemented B3 deletion part, and I'm planning to use this DB indexing algorithm in my own app, right? And the good thing about Electron is, if you're a front-end engineer, it's really kind of easy. Moreover, if you have some kind of experience of computer science, if you're friendly with the computer science, it's gonna be very easy, because basically Electron it uses Chromium for it. Chromium for the rendering rendering of your UI. Because if you look at how website looks like, it also uses the render process of it. But in the browser of Chrome, there's a lot of process, render process and browser process and whatever stuff. So rather than picking out all of things, the Electron select the only render process and make this only renders the page. So HTML and CSS and JavaScript is still working in this Electron render process. Even the React framework is working because it's very isolated from the other process. So I think it's kind of really good for making some kind of this thing. And since render process requires only one thread, there's only main thread in the render process, you have to think about like the optimization than your website, because like React thing, the React framework, it requires some kind of lot of JavaScript chunk, and if it's like CSR, you have to think about your JavaScript gotta be cost a lot. Your JavaScript will be cost a lot because there's gonna be have more big impact, is because we normally request some kind of JavaScript HTML CSS file from the server, but since your JavaScript, if you're developing our Electron app, your JavaScript is not from the server. Your desktop is the server. So there's a bunch of JavaScript and HTML and CSS and HTML. Since you have to think about how do I really optimize it, and I think my generally strategy is use SSG and with the CSR, and that's gonna be perfect. Using SSG and CSR will be perfect because there's no API calls of it. If there's no API calls, SSG is just CSR is more perfect. Since SSG requires even less than loading spinners in CSR, but still there could be loading. You can put some kind of widescreen but big logo of your desktop application to reduce some kind of a white page of it. So this is kind of really like explanation about my journey of a BT sites project and the render process in the Electron, and why it is kind of easy because render process on the UI thread is really separated. They communicate via IPs, inter-process communication of it. And to optimize it, you can just use SSG with the CSR. You can just use SSG Webpack plugin there. So I think this is kind of it. So this is it. Have a nice session next time. Bye bye.